Ahoy, hoy, friends. Welcome to the salon. Lagrange point. Get to the Lagrange point. Welcome. Super excited to have almost a full crew this week. Welcome back. Welcome. Excited to talk with everybody about the penultimate episode of Star Trek Discovery Season 5. Sadly, only one episode remains in this lovely series. We're going to get into the episode. Before that, we'll, of course, set an intention. But before that, we thought we might discuss a litany of Star Trek news that's been flurrying about this week. And I'm gonna save the best for last. Let's start with we got every couple of weeks the same movie news seems to happen, and it happened again with a new twist this time. So um, there is apparently movies in development, and a writer, director, producer is apparently in talks to become the Star Trek movie person, like the Alex Kurtzman of the movie side of things, where Alex is the TV side. I kind of feel like I'll believe it when I see it actually happening. Is Star Trek 4 going to happen? Is a different movie going to happen? I'm pretty jazzed about the notion of the guy involved in Andor being either writing or directing that movie. I think he did an excellent job with Andor, um, but I'm a little hesitant with the man who gave us Dark Phoenix being in charge of Star Trek movies. I have concerns. Um, but again, Paramount's a mess, as we all know. Probably very little will happen until it actually gets sold, but there's that. Anybody have thoughts that they want to share on that part of the news? I know Will does.
All right, I'll roll into this. I said this yesterday on Stan's birthday stream, but I think Paramount is biding its time before it can reboot TOS again, which I think in a movie form, I think they can't do anything innovative enough because like making a movie like the TNG movies, like the movies happen because people know the series, and then that translates into a movie. So with the original series, that translates to the first six, and then we have the TNG cast moving into films later on. I think them making a movie with a whole new group of people that aren't recognizable to kind of the larger public, I think is setting them up for failure. And I think the movie is just not going to do well because they never meet expectations in terms of box office. So I think they're just sitting there kind of biding their time until eventually they can do another hard reboot of the TOS cast again. That's what I think is going to happen. And I think we're going to get that probably maybe with this next round of stuff failing, probably definitely after Paramount gets bought, after whatever sale happens, whatever kind of corporate thing kind of shakes up. I just don't think we're going to get any Star Trek movies. I don't think we're going to get any new media from that franchise until Walter going crazy back here with a toy. Sorry. Um, uh, I don't think we're going to get anything until after it's bought, and then I think it's going to be a hard reboot again.
Ken?
That
So I think the fundamental question that Paramount has to ask is what is Star Trek? What do you need? Do you need a starship named Enterprise? Do you need a Captain Kirk, a Captain Picard? Do you need a Federation? What do you need to make it a Star Trek movie and to call it a Star Trek movie? Right? So, and I think that that's got to be a big question. If you're right in the sense that Star Trek has never been a huge blockbuster tentpole. I mean, the biggest one was JJ's first movie, and that was, of course, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy in the Enterprise. Um, but before that, it was Star Trek 4, which was Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, and the whales. And so, but the reason Star Trek 4 was so huge was because arguably it was the one that was most approachable to the everyday, right? They went back in time, they were in the contemporary time the movie was released and all that. So, the question Paramount has to ask is just that. What is going to make a Star Trek movie? Do they need a Starship Enterprise? Do they need a Captain Kirk? They're talking about First Contact. They're talking about going decades before 2009 and talking about even potentially being put in this, in 2024 and the First Contact with aliens. Well, why would that potentially be Star Trek? Maybe the aliens are Vulcans, but that was First Contact. So I'm going to be very curious to see what happens here. I don't have any faith that they are going to do a good job in making a Star Trek. I think it's going to miss the diehard fans. I think it's going to miss people who have very little interest in Star Trek, and the people who have a heck of a lot of interest in Star Trek. They're not really aiming for those people because there's too few of them. So it's very tough for Paramount now to figure this out, and that's not even given all of the rigmarole with the business side of it, with the company studio side of it. So we just have to see.
Yeah, and I know Will mentioned the expectation game when he was talking. I think that's one thing that really does a disservice to Star Trek. I'm gonna be bold and name someone I find frustrating because they feed into it. But quintessential Star Trek commentator Scott Mans does this a lot with like, oh, this movie really missed the mark. It made 25 million this weekend instead of 28 million. And like, come on. And I remember when Beyond happened, like for weeks they were like, oh, this movie is going to hit 100 million in its opening weekend. I'm like, well, why does it need to in the opening weekend? You're like, yes, it needs to make money, etc. But Paramount trying to make Star Trek $1 billion per movie franchise, just it's just not going to work. It doesn't have the kind of crossover appeal that Star Wars does. As much as I love it, like you need to be able to do different things. Like we were talking about this yesterday. The Star Trek 4, which I want to see, like you're going to eat your $100 million budget just with the main cast getting what they've truly earned it. Like Zoe Saldana, like she deserves a $20 million paycheck, but we're not going to get a Star Trek 4 with that cast unless they decide to like do it for the love of the game. And like, yeah, I'll do 4 million for this because I want to do this for funsies, which I don't see happening. So I think Will's probably right. Like a hard reboot is what we are more likely in store for versus anything. And the announcement of it's going to be it's a prequel of the Kelvin timeline. So like in the 24th century, because the Kelvin timeline does not exist prior to that moment in the 23rd century. So that doesn't make sense. But we're going to see First Contact. So we're getting a Star Trek First Contact reboot. Like the wording of it was so interesting because I do think if they go about a reboot, the real question is, do they do a TOS style reboot with a Kirk and Spock, or do they do a reboot of prequel story of Star Trek universe, but setting it up? I think that'd be interesting to see. And Trevor, you had your hand up. Let's go to Trevor.
Yeah, I just think, as a Star Trek fan, I'm about to be blasphemous by saying, if you want to make a blockbuster sci-fi film and attach Star Trek to the name, just do it. Like, you're not going to have another blockbuster TV show turned into a movie franchise for another 50 years. So stop trying. Make a huge sci-fi film, slap the name Star Trek on it, and as long as the crew isn't running around murdering people, we'll be fine. Like the idea that the next Star Trek film has to make $100 million because it just does, or $100 billion, whatever, and satisfy every hardcore fan is just really obnoxious, because like hardcore fans have already proven that they won't stand up for every TV series. So why the fuck are you trying to make them happy with every movie? Like, make your movie and crush it, or don't. But like, stop trying to make a round peg fit into a square hole, or the other way around, or whatever the fuck that saying is.
Let's go to Will, and then we're going to move on to the next one.
Yeah. This also reminds me back of, like, I think we had another Vanity Fair a while ago where they were talking with Kurtzman, where he says that they realize the box office threshold for a Star Trek film. Like now they kind of know how much this is going to draw. Like I think people want it to be like a Marvel film where, you know, it makes $1 billion. I just don't think that's feasible for Star Trek I just don't think it would happen. I think there's too many things at play that I think there's with people thinking Star Trek being very cerebral, it's very this, that, whatever. I think we got the blockbuster film when we got the reboot in 2009, and I think that film is successful in that regard. People piss on it every once in a while, but like I think rewatching it recently, I realized how fun it is, and like yes, this is a good reinterpretation of the franchise as like a big blockbuster film. I kind of going to the camp that I don't think Star Trek works well as a film. I think the stories need more time. And I think focusing on like small films, like the made for TV route, which is what Paramount seems to be doing, I think is also very smart because there's less risk involved, but they want that big box office splashy film. And I think if you get the right people behind it who aren't so precious with Star Trek as a franchise and want to do something different, I think you'll be okay. But I think Simon Kinberg is not that person. I mean, Dark Phoenix is a fucking stinker. It is a rotten film, and I tried watching it again and couldn't make it 15 minutes into the film. I had to turn it off. It's
like, how do you make Jessica Chastain bad?
It's borderline unwatchable. The man tried twice to do the Phoenix Saga. Like the next time he does it, I think he should be put in jail. I'm an abolitionist, so I don't want people jailed, but that man deserves jail time. Like 3 strikes, you're out. Like that, give that man an application to Target or something. Like you're done writing. Like no more films for you. You're good. Like we're gonna move you into something nice and quiet. Yeah. It's just a little frustrating. But I mean, again, the man wrote The Martian. Maybe he'll deliver something that's good. I
thought The Martian was written by Drew Goddard.
He produced it.
No, he wrote the book and it was produced by him. But no, Simon Kinberg wrote the film. Mm-hmm. And he was nominated for an Oscar for it, which I don't know.
It's a damn good movie.
But it's a very good movie. But maybe that's what we'll get here. I want to be hopeful, but I just feel like this is another announcement of another Star Trek film that's not going to happen until we get a reboot again.
Yeah. Well, in Star Trek adjacent news, we also got word that Star Trek Picard executive producer Terry Matalas is moving on to what's the Marvel equivalent of greener pastures? A different kind of nanoprobe pasture. Instead of Borg nanoprobes, it's Stark Vision. I'm really trying to make this work, and it's not. Terry Matalas has been announced as the showrunner for a new Marvel show starring Paul Bettany as the Vision, which will be really cool to see coming out in 2026. That, of course, leads to questions of what does that mean for... It's not happening yet, as of yet, at least Star Trek Legacy. Does it need to happen? Will it happen without him? Is that the same, etc.? I am personally of the mind that idea does not belong to him. As much as I love what he did with Picard season 3, I think we can have a Seven and Rafi led show that is not showrun by the Matalas team. I wish him nothing but the best and hope that he does come back to Trek. But if they were to greenlight more Trek, which obviously they're not going to do until they sell, I don't personally think Legacy requires a Matalas to be good. Anybody have thoughts on the news about Terry Matalas? Trevor?
My thoughts are girl bye. No. I said this last night on your birthday stream, Stan. While I would love for Terry to make more Star Trek if he wants to and they want him to, that's lovely. If I were the employer, if I were Paramount, and I had somebody who I had not yet hired for a project, talking about the project nonstop on social media, so much so that he named the project and was telling people what it will be, when I would be so incensed that I would not want to work with this person. So if they make Legacy and Terry doesn't get to be part of it, it's Terry's fault. Like, it's not like, I know everybody's going to want to blame Paramount for not moving fast enough, because apparently the last 11 Star Trek shows or 10 of the last 11 Star Trek shows were all made simply because Star Trek fans demanded a show premise and got their wish. It's literally never happened, so we just need to stop pretending like it will. It's not how TV works. It's not how TV is made. But everybody wants to blame Paramount for the fact that the show hasn't happened, and it can totally happen. It just doesn't have to happen with him. And if I were them, I wouldn't want to work with somebody who just names a project to will it into existence and shares it with the fans to get fans riled up. Like, you don't weaponize fandom to get your project greenlit. It just doesn't work. Ask Biff Yeager, the guy who played Lieutenant Commander Argyle in Star Trek TNG season 1, who was telling fans at conventions to write in and talk about how much they loved Lieutenant Commander Argyle, and the show hadn't aired yet. So they literally just fired the actor and never worked with him again.
Also, he was terrible.
Well,
he literally yelled at the captain and went, "Why are we at general quarters? Like, why are you making these acting choices?"
He was very worked up about the red alert. But anyway, that's a lot. That's months of frustration just kind of all coming out at once in a little rant about the obnoxiousness of getting fans pissed off at something that was never going to happen in the first place.
Yeah.
I actually think that Metalis going over to Marvel, it put Star Trek Picard and the success of Star Trek Picard back in the news again for another round of stories, and I think that could only be helpful. And as for the movies, if they don't succeed, and they should take a card from their own history and make the movies out of the TV division, then that will only put more towards the television, right? So I think we'll still have TV. I think Star Trek always was designed and always will be designed for television. I don't think Star Trek Legacy or whatever it would be called needs Terry Metalis. I think a lot of the stars, the talent, would rally behind him and say, "We're sorry that Terry's not a part of this," but I think that at the end of the day, those stars will still take the paycheck and be on the show. So that's my thought.
All right. Anybody else? Any final thoughts before the last bit of news of this week? The news I am most excited about, as I dip into my terrible
red alert, y'all.
I am so fucking excited. Let me share my screen really quick. Just go with this one. Y'all, Holly Hunter's coming to Star Trek, and I am so fucking excited. Star Trek Academy has cast Holly Hunter in the main role. She will be playing the Chancellor of the Academy. I am so excited to have this Academy Award winner and hilarious actress in Star Trek. But if I'm being completely honest, the thing that I am most jazzed about is to hear her in that voice, that distinct voice of hers, say Star Trek things. Like, don't you talk to my cadets like that, Admiral? And like, that is a terrible impression, but you get my drift. Imagine Holly Hunter there. That's better. Holly Hunter talking to an admiral about what these cadets are not going to be your pawns. And oh God, I'm so excited. Who has thoughts about Holly Hunter joining the Star Trek franchise? Kenneth, then Trevor, then I'm going to encourage others who haven't spoken yet. I want to make space for you if you have thoughts.
So my first thought, and this is a negative thought, but my first thought was the last time Star Trek hired an Academy Award-winning motion picture actress to lead a television series, her name was Genevieve Bujold. And, that's what first struck me was Holly Hunter.
Very different.
Yeah, going to be different. But that was like my first thought.
You need to spin around 3 times, spit and curse for conjuring up that specter.
Okay. But no, I'm excited. I mean, Holly Hunter, I've always loved Holly Hunter's work. I'm a journalist by heart, and broadcast news is one of my all-time favorite movies. And Holly Hunter has just got a great filmology, and it'll be great to see her do this. And I think that the rest of the cast is going to be announced imminently because they plan to go into production in just a couple months in Canada. So we'll see who the cadets are, and we'll see after next week if Mary Wiseman comes out and says, I mean, some may already know to some extent because obviously, you know, there's been screeners and stuff like that. But Mary Wiseman continuing on would be great too. But she's obviously wouldn't be the lead character. I mean, Holly Hunter by far is the captain of this new show, which I think is fantastic. I can't wait to see how Holly Hunter interacts with the work of the actress who plays Beckett Mariner, who I am now completely blanking on, but someone will just say out loud
Tawny
in the
Newsome.
writers' room. Tawny Newsome, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited for that, and I'm also excited for Mary Weissman. Presumably, Tilly is a part of the show. Really exciting. Trevor?
Just to everyone who said nobody's going to want to watch a show about a bunch of cadets, checkmate. Because I think people that didn't want to watch a show about young people will watch Holly Hunter. So clearly there's a little bit of casting chess going on in terms of making sure that there's a little something for everyone. And then my second comment just kind of came to me after Ken spoke, which is I see your Geneviève Bujold and I raise you Whoopi Goldberg.
F. Murray Abraham.
She wasn't a lead. Yeah.
F. Murray Abraham.
Leads. They weren't. Yeah.
Who was the other one? There's one more I'm missing. Whoopi, F. Murray Abraham, now Holly Hunter, Michelle Yeoh has become an Academy Award winner.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, Will's making a great point. Holly Hunter has great taste in the projects that she chooses. She also she plays this the weirdest character I've seen her play, which is an interesting statement for Holly Hunter, in Mr. Mayor. Really funny. Like I hope that she gets to bring some of her humor into this role. That'll be really exciting to see.
She's also done television. She's done episodic television. So unlike Geneviève Bujold, who just sort of had a meltdown over the hours and the demands, I don't know that that'll be the issue.
It's also terrible. God.
And
she was also Rick Berman also like gaslit her into believing that, so it wasn't.
It's like, oh yeah, you know this television. We do have some long days, but it's not every day. I'm like, that fucker. Let's not go down that road.
After 13 takes to get her to say engage properly, they probably were done. So.
Engage. I am so excited for Holly Hunter, y'all. Anybody else have thoughts on that? Who we haven't heard from yet? Krista?
I was just going to say that Holly Hunter, whether she's leading it or she's some kind of tertiary, secondary character, she could literally take a script that is a steaming pile of shit and make something out of it. That's how good she is at what she does. And the weirdest character I ever saw her play was a character in a Jane Campion, where she played this woman with very long hair. It was very like feminine geared movie, but she was almost unrecognizable. Like the accent, the whole thing was gone. And then you see her in Piano. So the only thing better for me is if they would cast, Cherry Jones in there, if they would like get her with other super strong women. And she's just going to own it. I mean, I'm with Trev. I wasn't terribly interested. I'll watch it now. I mean, I watched numerous things with Holly Hunter that I'm not interested in for the sole purpose of Holly Hunter. There's something very approachable about her.
100%. And Will making the point in the chat, the Batman versus Superman was complete trash, except for the women. Holly Hunter, Gal Gadot, Amy Adams, and Diane Lane. They made everything about that movie incredible, including like their interactions with those two trash male like Henry Cavill got better, but God, boof. Anyway, Holly Hunter, delightful, super jazzed. Star Trek news this week, mixed bag, but mostly good stuff. Really jazzed about Holly Hunter joining the franchise. Now with that, we've got we have to move on. We've got to talk about the penultimate episode today. And now we need not only a palate cleanser, but we must, of course, set an intention. How's that for a segue?
In honor of our penultimate episode, and I too am just going to keep saying penultimate like Stan until someone tells me to stop.
Somebody said they hated that word today, and I'm like, why? That's what it means. It's
a great word.
Yeah, but penultimate instead of the second to last episode every sentence.
we need a penultimate banner. So in honor of our penultimate episode, I would like for the Salon crew to jump into the realm of fiction even more than we already do, and actually insert ourselves into the story. So Saloners, you are each a member of Alpha Team. You're infiltrating a Breen ship. You've got to get into the cargo bay. Who is your Salon teammate? So we're breaking in and we're doing this, but who are you bringing along with you? And as always, I will begin before we go around the room and tell you that Krista's my infiltration teammate. I love you all the same. I don't have Salon favorites, but I do think when it comes to who is most likely to like get to understand which bullshit I'm going to use to get past the guards first, I think Krista and I have a very similar level of bullshit. And so Krista's my pal on this little infiltration scheme. We'll go around the room and we'll start way down at the bottom with Will. Will, who's your infiltration partner?
Oh, it's Joanne. I feel like me and Joanne would take over that whole ship. We convinced the crew to like mutiny, like that ship's going down. We're claiming it. We're moving it out. We're redecorating the interior before like anything happens. Me and Joanne are taking that ship down.
But I feel like unlike you're not starting in the cargo bay though. You're starting in the galley because you're both gonna like both gonna cook for the crew. Possibly poison them.
Yeah. We're gonna. I feel like me and Joanne would take over that ship pretty quickly. Yeah, it's my girl Joanne.
Fantastic. And this was not planned, but Joanne, you're next.
Well, it goes without saying. Yeah, I was just like the obvious choice. Well, I had two. Obviously, it would be Trev. But then I was just like, but Will and I, we're an unstoppable force. Unstoppable force. You know, they would not see these two bitches coming. So we'd have the element of surprise because they just think, oh, you know, who are they? And then we would just dominate. So.
Then you would show them exactly
yes,
who you are.
Exactly.
I love it. Ken, dear.
Man, I feel like I'm having flashbacks to gym class. So who would I pick?
I have so many thoughts right now, but I'm going to leave them
alone. I would pick. They're knocking on my door. Hold on a second. Yeah, I'm actually on the air right now. Okay.
This is better than Krista opening wine on the air.
Yeah.
Take the booty call.
Can you come in? Are you dressed? You can come in.
Who can it be knocking at my door?
This is my son Jake, who's just recently got himself out of.
You can tell him what happened.
He had a TIA, 2 TIAs in the last week, so he's now out of the hospital and he's doing much better. These are all of my salon friends, and I'm supposed to pick one of them as to who would infiltrate a Breen ship, and you've not seen the episode yet. But I'm actually not going to pick one of them.
That's I want to see.
Yeah. No, I'm going to pick one that's not here, which everyone is not going to be surprised about. So who, you guys tell me who I would pick to be my.
You're picking Matt.
Coach.
Matt, we all know.
Excuse me while I go vomit.
We all know you're
Yeah.
picking
Banter.
Now the reason is because what's the reason? The reason is because good night. Bye.
Nice meeting you guys.
Good night.
Nice meeting you.
Bye, Jake. Good night. I'll see ya. Your friends are still downstairs and stuff. We'll be around for. All right. I see. TMI. But so because we would have temporal mechanics on our side, and we would be able to do anything we needed to do. And then we would bitch and moan and fuck it up, and then we probably both get shot and killed. But
Yes.
you know, we bitch and moan at each other and complain, and
It's highly probable.
If we wouldn't shoot each other, then someone else would just come and shoot us. But it would still be very amusing and fun. So that's it. That's who it is. So Matt, miss you. Take care. We're doing this together. Krista.
Krista, you're up.
I would choose Trev, actually, which is very funny because you chose me. But I figured mine was less because we would understand each other's bullshit, and more the very minute amount of time it would take us to locate the bar and then make ourselves cocktails to basically then organize how we're going to handle.
Where's Alpha Team? Oh, they're at the bar.
Business, and then promptly go right back to the.
Where is Alpha Team? Where is Alpha
Team? We would have
Team?
lovely garnishes. It would all be, and then maybe just sit back and do some subtle reading. Just read.
I love it. I love it.
People.
That'll work. That'll work.
That'll
Fantastic. Alpha Team's got it. Benji.
So I would go with whoever is most likely to flirt with the most Breen.
Matt.
So I would ask you to self-identify. So if it's Matt. I was thinking maybe you, Stan.
I was gonna say that is Stan.
Most likely to flirt. No, I have no game. I'm better at flirting than I am recognizing flirting.
But you just shoot like garbled computer speech at them. It'll be easy.
You have done a pretty good Breen impression thanks to an audio screw up.
Audio glitch, yeah.
And then you get that sweet goo.
Oh my. This took a turn.
Trying. I've been trying. My dry spell is killing me.
I do want to not to call you out, Stan, but you need to push the button on Benji.
Oh, thank you. This is why we need an executive producer. Yeah.
Oh, and Joshua in the comments ordered a 7 of limes, and I think Krista and I will know how to make that for you. So there you go. Fearless Leader, take us home. Who are you teaming up with?
Good question. I also feel like I'm being picked last at kickball. I was gonna say Benji because we both work at nonprofits and we're used to needing to get shit done
with cargo bays. Oh,
also that.
Like what?
We're used to needing to get shit done without the appropriate resources to do the job, and I'll meet up with y'all at the bar later. Well, y'all, that was lovely as always. Thank you, Trevor. Let's get into this episode. Let's start with our top thoughts. All right, y'all. Top thoughts on this episode. I'll kick us off. It's our penultimate episode. I'm going to breeze through the visuals with my top thoughts, and then we'll come back to them as we talk about those moments. I loved a lot of this episode felt like set up as a penultimate episode tends to do, but we also got some lovely character moments, including with Saru and Tarina. I'm loving the quarters and his planned vibe. I love that they embraced. I'm still waiting for a kiss. I loved different aspects of infiltrating the Breen ship. The face stuff was a little much, but I loved this moment where they acknowledge, like, hey, we're gonna disco for a second. We're gonna talk about some shit that we shouldn't be talking about right now. But she actually said it. Now is not an ideal time, but we're going to talk about it. I fucking love Tilly. I love seeing President Rillick back. Rayner had a lovely moment, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But I also loved the visuals in this episode. The season is on fire in so many ways, but this was such a cool sequence. Seeing not only two black holes simultaneously, but we'll talk about this a lot later too, but Discovery cloaked going over the one, like the cinematography here, no, that's the wrong term. The CGI here is just incredible. And then them folding up and going into the shuttle bay, like, it was just a really cool thing to see Discovery actually going into that giant fleshlight, and I loved it. Really beautiful visuals. It's set up next week really well. There's some minor things that just didn't kind of work for me. My last thing, I will end on a slight negative note. I am finding Maul even more annoying by herself than when she was with Locke. She really needs Locke to be more interesting. I hate to be the one that's like, I think the actor's making weird choices, because I've seen it across multiple episodes and multiple directors, but like her shimmying as she's talking, and again in that wig and that weird, that terrible smoky eye, like this bitch has not washed her face since episode 1. What is going on? And like every episode, she's like, I don't trust the Federation, and I would rather die than not be with Locke. And like the shimmying is just so fucking distracting. That out in the universe, and said, the dynamic of her character with the others, I am finding more interesting in this episode. I think it's specific choices that I'm finding frustrating. But overall, I'm enjoying that this random human is fucking with this subset of the Breen, even though it makes no sense. Those are my top thoughts. Let's go in reverse order. Benji, Krista, Ken, Joanne, Will, and then Trevor will close us out.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling about this episode is just that it's like sort of the way I feel about the season overall. It's been a cool season. It's a cool episode. This cool ship stuff. It doesn't, not much about this season or this episode is like really grabbing me. It's cool. I think the whole thing is gonna, when the season's done, it's gonna stand out as just like a cool, like pretty well done season. It hasn't been like an especially like deep or significant season, but yeah, it's been like a cool ride. And honestly, like to cut through all of the stuff that happened in the episode, I think my favorite thing is that we finally got, I mean, we'll see what you all think, but I think we finally got some justice for Adira. Like they sort of have turned into a bit more of a full-fledged character in this episode. So I finally liked seeing that. I think they did kind of prove themselves a bit finally. But yeah, I'll be interested to see what you all think about that.
Okay, so I watched it about 3 hours ago, and I could give or take it. It's visually, it's striking. Visually, it captures your attention, but I find that for me, it's more a case of be careful what you wish for, because I had always wished to see more emotional investment in these characters, and I honestly don't want to see any more emotional investment at all. In fact, my feeling at this point is that the actual plot line is almost secondary at this point, and this emotional accessibility in inopportune moments. This is a bad time, but let's sneak into this alcove here, and we'll have some talk about feelings. It's a little distracting. It's a little off-putting. I don't want to say that I don't like the actress that's playing Maul, but I will say that her thematic contributions are not hitting on any of my cylinders. Also, I find her very tiny teeth annoying, and it's irrational, but I don't like her very tiny teeth. And I see a lot of her teeth because that is a lot of the way that she chooses as an actress to present strength. I don't really grasp it. I find it's difficult to believe that she is so smart and so skilled that she's getting over the Breen. That one's a bit of a tough one for me to swallow. And honestly, I think they're trying. I think that they're making every effort to like satisfy everybody and move towards progressively improving on misogyny and all of the things that have sort of been problems for the franchise. But I think they're doing it in sort of like testing the water sort of way, and it, to me, it comes off as pretty obvious, and that devalues it for me. I don't find a lot of value in that. Other than that, visually it was great. I'm pleased as punch to see Saru. I love Saru. I loved that scene with he and Tarina. It was almost a ballet. It was just beautiful and subtle and simple, and it just hit the right note. And I really want to see this other Breen, like folate or whatever they call it, whatever B vitamin they call them. I need to see this next captain, Tahana. I hope they show us that. And I was not surprised that the thing was a portal. That did not surprise me. I was only surprised that Book didn't end up in the portal as well. So, spoiler alert. Overall, it was, it was interesting, but.
So, I thought that this was, again, it was a very visually, like you were saying, Krista and everybody, a very visually stunning episode. The money into the effects, they obviously put a lot of their budget into some beautiful stuff with the twin black holes and everything else. To me, one of the biggest problems and inconsistencies I have with Star Trek ever happened here again. And here it was especially annoying because they made it a very significant plot point in part of the episode and completely ignored it in the other. And that is the ability to beam through shields. The shuttle, which was burning up, needed to hold their shields in place, or else the shuttle would have burned up, and they were able to transport while their shields were still in place. And then, of course, they had to bring down the shields to beam them, the Discovery to beam them back. So that was kind of annoying. Also, I found it that there was a lot of parallels in my mind to Star Wars in this. Once the Millennium Falcon was captured by the Death Star and they split into two teams and they had to deactivate the tractor beam, and there was a lot of feelings there that, there was very, the crew on the Death Star trying to handle the things. And again, that was just a weird thing for me to think about, but it did have some of those Star Wars-esque moments. But I did think that it was pretty well paced episode. I loved seeing Saru back. Keeping in mind that at this point they did not know that, and they should not be showing any signs that this is that they had they thought they had one episode left in the season, not the series at this point. So it's interesting to see how the story's going, and it'll be very interesting to see how they button it all up next week. But yeah, it's one of those classic to be continued moments with the captain gone and in trouble. And I thought that Rayner, is that the guy's name? Did a fantastic job, and they again overplaying the captain's chair and all that kind of stuff. But in this case, I thought it was well done when he finally sits in the chair, does the 2 taps, and we're off to the races for next week.
So for this penultimate episode, I'm not into kind of I'm not the action girl. I'm not the ship girl. I'm not the pew pew girl. I appreciate the emotional story that Discovery tells, because I think that's what they do. And that's what this series is, that they tell the emotional stories. And so I was fascinated by the all of the relational Lagrange points throughout the episode. So all of the pairings were, I think, deliberate and came to, unlike kind of even like the progenitor tech, came to a moment of resolve, or at least a moment of moving forward, which, I had to look up what a Lagrange point was to really bring that theme home. But I thought those were beautiful, deliberate choices to see them kind of, take the action that each pairing kind of took in action that would move them forward. And I thought that that was brilliantly executed. The brain whole, their sociology just doesn't hold together for me. A lot of it just doesn't make sense. The Imperiums and the Primarchs, and I'm still stuck on if Locke was a direct descendant of the Emperor. Why is there a battle? But I'm not going to unpack that. It doesn't work for me. But overall, it was fine, and it did what it needed to do, right? It got you ready and into wanting to see what happens next. So middle of the road, but not bad.
I like the episode on first watch. I thought it well paced. We kind of crossed a lot of my thoughts on it off. I it, Maul at this point is such a drag on the fucking story that like it's so hard to believe that she's cunning in any way, because she's so just the actress performance is so over the top. It's so melodramatic. It's so maudlin. It's hard to like really view her as anything other than just kind of annoying. And Discovery has this kind of thing where they want to humanize their villains, especially in the last couple seasons, and it just makes them annoying. Like it just gave me Tarka vibes. Like I get it. Like your villain can be a villain. Like they can just be a person with selfish motives, and this is what they want, instead of her being like, oh, I have to do this to bring my dead husband back. It's like it's just a little, it's just, we didn't need her. We didn't need her, to be honest, because there hasn't been much payoff with her relationship with Book. There hasn't been much like her character's in there, but like it was said in the chat that the Breen should have been the enemy the whole time. Like we could have had someone, we could have had this relation. I don't know. It just woulda, shoulda, coulda, whatever. But like I find her involvement in the story to be such a drag. And like considering how they had a lot of really good character moments in this episode, like Adira really turning around and like kind of showing their mirth as a Starfleet officer, and like the pairings and things, like actually seeing Burnham being a xenoanthropologist for a moment and it paying off was really great, because now we're seeing these people's skills at play in a situation. The plan comes together a little bit too conveniently, but like just like, oh, we're gonna do this. It's like, have you broken into a fucking ship like this before? That's fucking crazy. Like you have a heist set up. At least there's people who train for that before they go in. Like, I don't know. Anyway, nitpicking. Other than that, thought it was great, well paced. Jonathan Frakes delivers as always with the directing. It's solid. The visuals are great. The just everything's there. It just, there's some annoying character things that are annoying, and not much we can do to it until whatever happens for Maul in the finale. She gets what she wants and brings back Locke or whatever she's trying to do. Or pregnant with Flubber jellyfish baby. Who knows? Like I don't know what it is that she's gonna get, but blessed be girl. So done. Anyway, good episode.
I too enjoyed the episode, but in my top thoughts, I'm going to tell you everything I hated. No, but I will share some negative thoughts. First and foremost, kind of echoing what Joanne said, Breen Society makes no sense. It is the 21st century on a tiny blue marble that doesn't really make a lot of sense. And there's a line of succession for just about every government that's recognized on planet Earth. Why in the 32nd century, in a warp-capable species that has survived the burn, do you not have a line of succession that doesn't involve being blood related to somebody who just died? It makes no sense. It's weird. Also, we're all just following this woman because she said she was married to someone. We're like, oh, okay. It's super strange and doesn't seem conceivable that a civilization could actually function and progress at that technological level with that kind of organization. It just bothers me. Agreed with what everyone said about Maul. In fact, I kind of would have preferred things the other way around. Locke was a more interesting character. Also, Locke and the actor that played him could totally get it. I mean, I'll take it because it's true. But I'm beating a dead horse. I've said this 1,000 times. I'm going to make mean faces so you know I'm the bad guy. Does not work for me. Like, be interesting, be sinister, be calculating. Particularly since you've actually like kind of weaseled your way into running an entire civilization. You should be more than just smoky-eyed angry. And she's not. And that's both choices and writing. She's giving us what she's been given. So it's not. It's a problem with the story, not the story. It's a problem with the writing of the character, not 100% on the character's choice, the actress's choices. But the choices are interesting. Some things that were criticized that I actually enjoyed. I've seen and read some things about sort of the weird, and we mentioned it here briefly with the visuals, the weird inside the helmet view. I actually liked it because there are so many instances in Trek history of hearing after the fact, oh, we were going to do this thing, but it doesn't fit the mold of how we show you Star Trek. So cool. You're showing me something different in Star Trek. I'm here for it. Like, it's fine. It didn't bother me. It didn't rub me the wrong way. The emotional conversation between Michael and Book, I just feel would have been better placed prior to going on the mission. Like, and it would have just worked if 3 minutes before beam out, they were like, hey, come here real quick. Before we get into all this, let me just tell you something. Because in the action, it didn't make any sense at all. But like, if beam out is in 10 minutes and at the 7-minute mark, you're like, come here, bro, I got to talk to you. Awesome. I'm here for that. But the way that it played out did not work for me. Though I did appreciate what Stan mentioned, which was the whole, at least they called out, hey, this isn't the right time, which has never happened before until this.
There was also a moment of like, they needed
episode.
It didn't fully work, but there was also something about that moment where it's like, well, we're waiting for Alpha Team to be in place anyway. So like,
right.
they did kind of have a moment, but still, it was weird.
But speaking of Alpha Team, Krista, you had something to add.
Yes.
We are Alpha Team.
I wanted to say, apropos that scene, I agree with you. It maybe should have been placed in a different place, but I think the interesting feature about that scene is that they're being more emotionally honest with one another, or she's being more emotionally. They're both wearing masks. So it is still a degree removed. Like, it's easier at that point to say those things because you have that mask on.
We're not looking at each other in the eye. No.
Yeah, you have that degree of separation, and that's what made that scene interesting to me. Not so much what they were saying, but the way in which it was handled.
We don't have a Krista Fixed It banner, but we need one because that works for me. So other than that, other top thoughts, my only other one is, again, like it's Breen criticism. Oh no, one of our people was pulled into whatever this is. My first thought as a 21st century observer was, yo, that's a portal. For some reason, 32nd century aliens who have the portal sitting in their warp capable cargo bay were like, I know, we'll send another guy, but this time we'll attach a rope to him.
And neither of them had a tricorder.
What the, like,
They were just like,
ro-
Well, they're
go
just dumb
look
killers.
inside.
They're dumb
Like,
killers. They
Just
don't.
go look
They
inside.
don't science.
did this, like, the rope thing didn't work in Stargate. It's not going to work here. Like, it was silly and weird. And I mean, I get it. They're like trying to show you, oh, look, they'll just line people up and try things until there's no one left. But give me something more interesting than a rope or a cable attached to it, whatever. Like, anyway, that was just dumb. But overall, I enjoyed the episode. I struggled a little bit with, oh no, we have to go get this thing. I have a plan, and she just spews the plan. Maybe the thing could have been caught in episode 8, and then in episode 9, we're hearing the briefing on the plan, so that it actually doesn't sound like she made the plan up in 4 seconds.
Right.
Also, who comes up with all these visuals? Like, she's got like a whole PowerPoint in just because she thought about it. So that's weird. But
Again,
I'm being
technology needs more dialogue. I need
just one. The implant. That's all we need. You're
they
right.
have an implant. When you think it
Yes.
shows.
Yes, that's all we need. It's brain Photoshop. But overall, like, those are all my nitpicks. I enjoyed the episode. I thought it was an excellent penultimate episode.
Well, speaking of this is just stupid, I want to get this moment into the discussion and then get over it. My dude, Dr. Kolber.
I just heard.
We're at Red Alert. I just heard this random thing that we're gonna do. Like, what the fuck do you mean you heard? Like, how and where? My headcanon, Will's favorite thing. The only thing that I can see that makes this make sense, I think Star Trek needs to reference a new thing that I'm calling the deck medic. And like, it's Kolber's turn to be assigned to that deck, and that's why he's there. Because it's a red alert. You know that you're going into a dangerous situation. Why are you hopping down that slide to go pester your husband? Go to sickbay, Dr. Kolber. God damn it.
But we're shortening those words, right? We're making it the deck dick.
The deck, yes.
Okay.
Push the button.
Listen, if Kolber wants to be the deck dick,
that's perfect.
Kolber can be the deck dick.
He solves
The
crime.
disdain in your voice, Joanne.
Because I'm just like, God damn it.
Clip it.
I'm gonna say though, I'm gonna harken back to TNG. I don't remember what season, but they were at Red Alert and shit was happening, and Picard says, Dr. Crusher, have you been monitoring comms? And she says, yes, and we're ready. So I'm just going to think, particularly since Adira is on the mission, that Kolber, in his medical capacity, is monitoring comms.
Fine.
I'm going to take that as a euphemism for Beverly. Are you watching my glutes? Yes. Yes, I am.
And Beverly Alert.
What?
No, Beverly. That does matter. Beverly Alert. There's two.
It was
only
two.
one, really.
Yeah, I'm just.
They both count.
I heard Beverly. I just didn't get. I didn't understand the next part, and I feel like this works.
In the arms of the angel.
Fair. The glutes were mentioned.
Glutes.
Glutes.
There. I did enjoy the dynamic between, like, I like the dynamic between Kolber and his technical husband, Stamets. They're technically married. We've talked about it before. They don't get to be gay.
Lots of hugs.
Adira used to annoy the hell out of me. Adira has grown on me in the last couple of episodes in particular. And I thought this was a great moment of growth for them, being like, yes, I'm volunteering to go on this incredibly dangerous mission. It was cool to see that growth for sure. Anybody else had thoughts on Culber not being in sickbay, or Adira or Stamets
I did
being
appreciate Stamets saying the math doesn't lie. Like, don't
yeah.
question me, bitch. So
Yes. Yeah, this is one thing that's it's a quirk in Star Trek. They blurred the lines between engineer and scientist. Stamets is whatever they need him to be ever since season 4 on, especially. But even beforehand, like he is the spore drive person, but now he's everything. I think one of the weaker aspects of this season, and I'm loving the season. I think it's one of, and I might even consider it its best. Although one is way up there. There are a lot of little things that just don't make sense. Like, why is Book doing things that other engineers should be doing? And the execution. We were talking about this on Text Trek stream earlier. Fuller's idea of it's not about the chief of medical, the chief of engineering. The execution of that has been really wonky, where you're left wondering, like, is this person that? Are they, like, is someone else? And like, they reference the chief, but then we never see them, even haphazardly. And it feels a little weird that they have all of these extras about that they could have someone recurring, like, just say that Dr. Pollard is the chief medical officer, like, it's weird. I forget the point that I was going. I'm not even high today, and I'm all over the place.
To your point, with whatever it was, even even in an interview, Wilson was asked directly. I think it may have been in the ready room, like, "Are you the chief medical officer?" And he laughed and was like, "I'm just gonna say yes,"
Yeah.
because even the guy playing the character doesn't know what his. I mean, he knows he's counselor. That's been said in dialogue, but yeah, we don't know if it's him or Pollard.
I also feel like it would be, or someone else that we haven't seen.
Or a doctor that's been way too busy during every other
Yeah.
crisis to
Well,
show
see,
up.
I like the idea of not like, this is going to be a ramble. I'm going to try and make it cogent. Something that I love about Discovery, and it's been one of the criticisms of Discovery, is it just doesn't fit the mold. It doesn't follow the formula. It didn't start about the captain and the bridge crew, right? Like, this is about the science officer and a few people around her. I like the idea of seeing not every starship is the chief medical officer is the most important person. Maybe they're being the manager of the medical facilities. And for this story, you don't need the manager of the medical facilities to be the one in the briefing. You need the doctor who has the specialized care experience for that situation. And that's why it's Dr. Culber. You don't, and Stamets is the very clear one where, like, this ship has a spore drive, and that is critical to the plot, so we don't need to care about the chief engineer. But the way that they went about executing it in a few places just made it a little wonky and left you wondering, like, well, who is this, who is that? If they had just named those people, show them off, like, have Culber saying, "Hey chief, I'm going to the briefing with the captain to talk about this situation, I'll be right back," like, random shit like that. I think would it's businessy. It's not as exciting. Like, the stuff that I kind of want to see is really boring, but I think it would fill out the world a lot more in some interesting ways.
I think it's wonky because I think this is a case where they were trying to appease the criticism about, you know, why we don't utilize the bridge crew, because the show's not about them. And I think that that's what they were building. And then, people got their panties in a wad because the show centered a Black woman. and they tried to correct for this. And I think these relationships weren't well defined because they didn't really matter in the initial premise, I don't think. And then, but now, they try to fix it and they fix it poorly.
The stories is like the relationships are about who is central to Burnham's orbit. It's not about the bridge crew. So, like, we probably get Culber because he's married to Stamets, and then Stamets is important to the plot of the show and to what's happening with Burnham. Just like we never see engineering, we see like the engineering lab, which they just never, I guess, wanted to spend money to build an engineering set, so that just became the de facto engineering. But I think Pollard is supposed to be the CMO. And my little like nitpick thing that I wish they could have so easily retconned it, like as soon as they decided they wanted Culber to be like the counselor, he could have just said like at the very first thought that they had, he could have just said my specialty was psychiatry because psychiatrists are MDs. He could have just said I had a specialty in psychiatry. All they would have needed to say, and everything would have made sense. Yeah.
And gave him a blue dress.
Yeah.
With a plunging neckline.
Mm-hmm.
Or just a Discovery era scant that a man would wear because
he has nice
both have
legs.
Just
Yeah, both have nice
a
legs.
jock and some like cute boots.
Yeah. Yes.
Really, Joanne? You're not going to tell him to push the button now? Only I get
No.
called.
We
Push
really
the
need to
button.
isolate. We need to
Telling you
isolate
that.
that sound clip of Joanne. Push
the-
the
the-
button.
Push
the
the
Alpha
button.
the Alpha Team Alliance, it's tough to break through.
Speaking of butts, let's talk about Saru and Tarina. Segue. I don't know. He said
We're
something
gonna
about.
keep working on those.
He said something about. He had some kind of thing about two buttocks last season. Everybody, just read my mind and know what I'm talking about. Saru is back.
Maybe you need an edible, honey.
Oh,
There's another one. Just a
Maybe.
library of Joanne sound clips.
Oh God. Maybe I do. Yeah, Saru is back.
Yep.
Get
After
excited.
5 episodes away, is that right?
Yeah.
He was there going for half the season.
He was
Literally?
out promoting Hocus Pocus 2 for a very long time and filming what looks like a truly terrible movie with Kevin Sorbo. Although that's like a cameo situation of him. He is not a oh God, that trailer looked terrible. But he's back in Star Trek Discovery.
You know what he's really good in also is What You Do in the Shadows. I think it's what it's called. Is that the
Mhm.
show?
They Do in the
I don't know if
Shadows.
he was filming that.
So
They Do
good.
in the Shadows, yeah. Anyways,
Anybody
Yeah,
else?
Who is giving Kevin Sorbo work now? Like,
It's a super.
was it like a
Christian-y-
true social production, or okay?
It looks like that. It
Fantastic
was
question.
once I saw, like, I was watching he posted the trailer because he's in it for like a hot second. Apparently, and actors need to work. But the second I saw Kevin Sorbo, I was like, oh, Doug, no.
Actors need to work, but actors can also be like, I'll pass on that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Maybe I didn't know.
Just-
I don't know.
I think the important thing about the Saru Tarina relationship is how adult and mature it is, both emotionally, professionally. It's very comfortable, particularly when you juxtapose it against the kind of angsty drama that's happening between the push and pull with Book and Burnham trying to figure out who and what they are to one another, in addition to who they are to themselves. And then the sort of toxic capriciousness of Maul and Locke. Like, this is how it begins. Then it merges into this middle couple. Ultimately, the goal, the life goal, the marriage goal, or the relationship goal is really, really sort of what you see with these elder statesmen who have who pick their battles. They they don't over dramatize anything. They just sort of, you don't question that they trust one another. And it seems like it's a toxic level of trust with Maul and Locke, to the point that she's, completely uncontrollable.
And he's dead.
And he's dead. And she's going to try to, Lady Melisandre him. And
that is a real relationship killer. When one of you's dead.
It's like, if you think that's, and it reminds me very much of the high school relationships, where it was all just, everything was just so overwhelming. And, you can't exist like that for long. You can only hope for what Saru and Tarina have achieved. And I think that that's the point of those three relationships. They're very specific relationships that they have deliberately expanded on at the expense of Culber and what's his face. So there are 4 relationships, but they've only really expanded to that extent. And really, I would say that Culber and Stamets are more Saru and Tarina-esque. I think they are more comfortable with one another.
Sexless.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Because they don't really show them kissing that much, and they did show them but to me it's sort of like let's throw them a bone. There's a lack of authenticity there for me, and I really don't have any place to speak because I'm an ally. I'm not a member. I just play one on.
You just play one on YouTube.
Maybe I'm just talking out of my lovely non-dimpled ass.
No, actually, you touched on something that I kind of love, which is there is because of the maturity and the trust between the two people in the relationship, there's sort of a subtlety to Saru and Tarina that Maul and Locke don't have. It's right. Maul and Locke have to tell you that it's the two of them against the world. And it just makes me like, I don't think we come off this way. Like, I would set the earth on fire for my husband if it made him happy and it made us happy and it made us safe and it made him okay. I don't run around like I just did, but I don't run around declaring that in every breath because it's not necessary. Like, it's the
I would
the
kill
trust
all
is
of
there.
you if Roth asked me to.
Well, he does just sort of engender a certain amount of trust and compliance, but truthfully, there's the constant, every scene that the two of them are in or that Maul is in, she's like, he's my love and we will do anything. It's like, calm down, ma'am. Like,
her line delivery of "I would rather, if I'm not with Locke, I would rather die." Like, girl,
which is not healthy. Can we just say, like,
yeah, it's not healthy. And
not,
they've established an intimacy with Tarina and Saru that even though you don't see them, physically interact like or intimate, but there's a clear emotional and a deeply intimate connection between them. That's also, kind of not present, I think, in a lot of the pairings, save Michael and Book, right? It's why those things, I think, work for us. But yeah, there's a lack of intimacy and knowledge, right? Because I mean, Culber and Stamets are still at this point, like I said, you're questioning him. Is this going to work? And he's like, bitch, don't. Anyway, that really got me. Like, why are you challenging me on this? They haven't established that connection, that sense of intimacy. So,
but the whole time when they're questioning it, it comes off as defensive. When you switch to the scene of Saru and Tarina, and he's saying, "Hey, it's not just Vulcans. It's done in a way that is so compassionate and so generous that that it just proves the level of intimacy that you're talking about Joanne.
because that was so fierce for her to say. You
Yes.
know, you don't really. I didn't think you had the skills to pull this off because of whatever. That was fierce to
Yeah.
not completely wreck somebody, right? But that they could talk through that and reason through that and still remain, you know what I mean, connected.
Oh yeah.
That was incredible, right?
See,
But
that's marriage goals though, or partnership goals, I think, where you can't, where they represent that level of attachment to another person in which you can say some fairly caustic true things without it being cause for war, without it, where you automatically understand where it is coming from and why it is coming, and that it is not immediately. And I think Book and Burnham, they're verging closer to that. But again, there's so much, insecurity about so many things that the emotional accessibility between the two of them is very interesting, if only because you can see it inching closer to maybe this won't last forever, but we can be better with one another for the period of time that we are together, and be grateful for that period of time. There still may be another incarnation of relationships for both of us on the horizon, but I think they specifically made these 3 sets as a means to sort of capture the largest audience, because I personally identify with the oldest couple, because I have been the second couple and the first couple. And I've already gone through that several times, to the point where I've gotten to the point where I'm like, oh, wait, all of that is great and it's passionate and it's a rush and it gives you butterflies. But this is not the shit that's going to keep you alive if you need to stay alive. This is not the person who's going to take a bullet for you. So anyway, that's way up there. Anyway, I'd take a bullet. Next.
Krista, thank you for sharing the conversation you and I are having at the bar while we're supposed to be infiltrating a cargo bay.
This is exactly what I'm talking about.
Hey, Alpha Team, are you in position yet? No, we're at the bar talking.
Hang on.
this has been the Beta Z Corner, brought to you by.
You're like, hang on, we've only gotten to year 15 for both of us. Give us a minute.
This is what I'm talking about.
Our fearless leader left. She got mad and walked out.
Sorry, Tendy bumped her head, and I was just making sure she's okay.
Oh,
She's
is her little
good,
noggin
she's
all
good.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
She's tired from daycare today. All right, what have we know? So we've talked about Saru and Tarina. We've talked about the Breen. Let's talk about Tilly. We haven't talked about Tilly. She had some fun moments. I like that we saw, like, it wasn't like, so we talked about this a couple weeks ago where Adira felt like she was they were backtracking. And I'm glad that they got past that. Like I said, I'm enjoying them the last couple of episodes more. Tilly in this episode, in a similar vein, but it didn't feel like backtracking. We got like quintessential Tilly, like really excited about, like, oh, that's actually interesting. Like in the middle of an emergency, being interested by the science and being excited about being a temporary first officer, and at a time that this time it actually kind of made a little bit of sense, at least. Thoughts on Tilly? I thought she was delightful in this episode, and I'm excited. I'm so excited for Mary Weissman to work with Holly Hunter. But in this episode, I thought she was delightful.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're setting her up, obviously, to move forward. I think that she's going to be she has already been such a fantastic addition. I missed her when she wasn't on the show, and to have her back being borrowed by Discovery is basically, I think, a way to really reintroduce her. I love the dynamic between Tilly and the captain, whose name I can never, Captain Rayner. I love that moment. I love that. Does he ever sit in that captain's chair? Yeah, we all noticed that. I thought that was, I mean, Tilly's just got the right combination of seriousness and the smile that she gives Rayner after he's like that soft-hearted bullshit, I won't kill you until you give me that. And she just, that smile was amazing. I am excited to see the character grow. I think of all of the characters on Discovery, I think she's got the most potential to really just keep going and growing. And if she does move into Starfleet Academy, it'll be just perfect.
Trevor.
Oh, I was fingers crossed, hoping that we get her in Starfleet Academy. But I will say, I think.
What if she wasn't? It'd be so random if it's been telegrammed so hard for seasons long, and she's like, actually, no.
I think the actress gave it to us by acknowledging that she can't talk about. Like literally every actor on Discovery has been asked the question,
right?
And they've all said, "Oh, it would be wonderful." She's the first one who was like, "You're not going to trick me," and we're like, "Okay, well, that's the answer. Like clearly, you're in it."
Or what if they pull the ultimate, like she dies in the pilot?
Shame on you.
That
like,
will
are
not
you high
happen.
right now?
That will
What's
not
happening?
happen. I'm not conjuring anything.
Can
I'm
you
not
imagine?
manifesting. Manifesting isn't real. Everybody calm down.
I will riot.
Well,
All
I
by
think they
myself.
did kind of set up, though she might not be central. She's like, "Oh, I'm going to start a mentoring program," and that could really be her track. And like, she's not there every week.
Yeah. But I thoroughly enjoyed. First of all, okay, I know that I'm shifting a little bit by starting this way, but I promise I'm going back to Tilly. I'm really sad that we're not going to get more Rayner because I love the actor and loved him from the first time I saw him on Battlestar Galactica, and the character that he played in BSG was fantastic, and just a huge part of the entire mythos of the show, and was just, I can't say enough positive things. So I was very excited when we got him for Star Trek, but I'm really sad that we only got him for one season.
Yeah.
The character growth worked for me. Yeah, he really did the whole who is this asshole all the way to he's the asshole that we need when we need him. It's just a nice arc.
And he's an asshole that actually grew, not like I'm not being told there was growth that we don't actually see.
Yes. No, we've watched it happen over every single episode.
That still pisses me off.
But to bring it back to Tilly, I loved when he was like, "You'll be my acting first officer," and she was like, "Okay." Like there was no, I have to go talk to someone about this because I'm very nervous. Like there's been such growth with Tilly that when she's getting this job again, she doesn't even begin to second guess it. She's great at the job. Like it's just I'm a
And
big
they
Tilly
didn't make
fan.
her a secretary this time.
Thank you.
She was actually giving him good advice as a number one, not managing his schedule. Ugh.
Yeah, and frankly, a first officer you'd want when you're flying around next to two black holes. I mean, there was a legitimate science problem that needed to be commanded while the ship was in danger. So it just worked. And
she also she knows these people,
really
but she is technically just on loan from the academy, so she has a somewhat outsider perspective while still being an insider too.
Yes,
Krista, I saw your hand go up.
I was just going to say that the great thing about Tilly is it doesn't matter what franchise they throw her in, she's going to work, because as we've seen in all of the seasons, her sort of goofy fascination with things and her sort of endearing awkwardness, for all of that, she manages to get along with absolutely everyone, no matter who is persnickety, no matter who. She disarms them in a way that endears her to them, and I really feel like that's the thing that really contributed mostly to her growth, is that she got to pollinate everywhere, whereas other people got to pollinate in specific areas. They used her character as a cross-pollinator, which So there's no way she can't be an academy, because why would you invest that much effort and time? And also, just as an aside, it occurred to me that Raynor's ears are docked, and I had this irrational thought when I noticed it today that he must be neutered, because that's what they do to the stray cats in
the arms of the angel.
And so he will never get laid. Never.
Wow.
Oh, he could though.
No, he could. All comers.
Just Benji in the comments called it. He was Delphified for sure, and that's not normally my jam, but could be.
I didn't even realize that was him. Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Commander Zaddy.
Cheekbones, cut glass.
Let's do this indeed, Rainer.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do this with my neutered cock.
Wow. Let's do this.
I was marveling at how we have passed up on some obvious jokes tonight about black holes and flower suckers and all of that.
It's amazing, isn't it?
To only get to ear cocks.
Ear cocks
and sinkhole picks.
Black
Which is
holes.
a lovely segue into talking about the visuals again. I loved these moments. First of all, Federation ships cloaking. I'm glad we're seeing that. Seeing this black hole through their cloak was such a cool visual. Like, I just fucking loved it. And again, them speaking of sexually ramming things, but I love that they brought their little nacelles in. It was so cute to see. And then they exploded out of that fleshlight. That green fleshlight.
I guess they have to pull them in so they can go through the car wash or through the Baryon suite.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Also, they have original TOS sounding phasers on their 32nd century.
Yes, and little pulses. I saw there were photon torpedoes that were red. There were blue phasers that had the sound, and they had little pulse blasts. So that was really cool to see. And like them being at that angle of the Breen ship, it makes sense. Like they're not getting hit with the main weapons, so the Breen are trying to get them from the rear, aren't we all? And it was just really lovely visual.
Push it.
Push it. I slipped.
Apparently, you're not
this salon talk.
I'm having lots of top thoughts. Leave me alone.
How do you go Alpha Team? You get down there, you've got your stupid little outfit on, you're all greenified, and how do you not grab one of those fucking light sticks? Like first,
you gotta slather goo all over your body.
First fucking thing after I get a cocktail is give me one of the light sticks. It doesn't even make any goddamn sense.
A neutered cocktail.
No, Ken, that didn't work.
It didn't.
Why?
Why?
You need.
Listen,
in the role of that is a dumb bitch tonight.
Oh my god! Hit the banner.
Look,
that's a dumb bitch.
No.
In honor of Matt's absence and Ken's horrible comment.
No.
Where?
I'm just saying.
Girl, we trim these down.
You're just gonna walk around the hallways like your MMF. We're just gonna walk around in our Breen outfits. We're not.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. How is it that they're able to talk to each other? But the only things that actually
hear them. I just
right.
Thank you.
They're able to talk to each other, and then
And
what
what
they want
happened
to
to
say.
her fabulous hair? How does that
Exactly.
work exactly?
32nd century
Exactly.
technology. This is my headcanon. I think for that, like those suits have walkie-talkie mode. I've decided, like when they're not pressing their thumb or whatever, they're just talking to each other, and then to broadcast, they press their thumb or whatever, and they just didn't tell us.
That's crazy.
Yes, that's
yeah.
that's
I mean,
headcanon, baby.
Wait.
That plus again the shields problem just drove me nuts.
Although it would
Anyway.
happen in other series too, because like
Yeah.
with the badge, you'd be talking to you. They wouldn't tap it, and then or they tap it, and I'm talking to Riker, but then all of a sudden they're talking to the computer or to the whole ship. They
Or they
never
look
explain that.
up to
Yeah,
call someone or tap their badge to call. Yeah, it
exactly.
never. Yeah.
That never works. I can't
But is
believe
that
we're not watching
speakerphone? Is that
this
going in
anymore.
their ear? That's the thing about communicators. If they tap it, is that speakerphone? Because that's
Yeah.
fucking annoying.
Mhm.
Or are they
Yeah.
turning
How
it
are they
off
hearing it? Yeah. How are they
Exactly.
hearing it?
now?
I think there's a
Exactly.
little interface that their eyeballs kind of move to. That's my headcanon.
Which is
They
funny
select.
because if you all
Maybe.
rewatch, I'm not encouraging this necessarily for tonight, but if at any point in the next, couple days you're thinking about this and it's driving you nuts, rewatch Encounter at Farpoint and watch how many times they fucking tap that badge. Like they are
Yeah.
tapping their badge constantly, which is why they ended up not putting it in like the stage instructions because clearly it's excessive. It's a lot.
So many things about that pilot. One of my favorites, I rewatched it again recently, and a couple months
Why do you
back.
guys torture yourselves?
A good question. Oh, because I was on a podcast talking about it.
There you go.
In an effort to like fix the first season, so to speak, and in a pilot full of glaring "what the fuck were they thinking" moments, like print out on all stations and like shit that just circuits and shit that doesn't make sense. That the way that they splice the episode, Q appears, Picard goes and does a captain's log, and then they cut back to him talking to Q. Like what?
It's like you showed up and he was like, "Excuse me, I need to go make a note of this."
One second, please.
Straight up
Yeah.
dick to Commander Riker. He's like, "Hey, you put the ship back together." Or
first
before
watch this clip show.
Yeah, watch this clip show
Right.
before you put the ship back together with a
That's
manual docking. Like what?
Right. I need you to go watch dailies and then get back to me.
Ugh.
And
He calls that a normal day.
It's terrible.
Shut up. Yeah.
Oh, look who's in the audience.
Yep, that's it. You guys just hate Trek. We get it.
Yep.
The other half of Ken's Alpha team.
Where is it?
That's right.
Dumb bitch Madeline.
There she is.
I finally found it.
Yeah.
Yes, Matt, if you didn't hear early on, you would be Ken's Alpha team mate for the heist.
The heist. Because of your temporal mechanics. That's what I need. Your temporal mechanics to get
You
us.
were also
And
I forget
ability
who
to
started.
flirt and seduce all the breen.
Yeah.
Keep them busy while no one's paying attention to me like normal, and I can go doing what I need to do.
I'm sorry, Ken. I wasn't paying attention to any of that. What'd you say?
See?
Sorry, what?
See that?
Someone talking.
I'm
What?
sorry, were you talking?
Yeah, no, I wasn't talking. No.
All right, y'all. We're bringing it in for a landing.
Wait. Will, come off mute. What could we do right now if we landed the ship?
We could land the ship.
We could land the ship. We're gonna do some stunt casting of a Voyager reboot pretty soon.
It's
on
gonna
Twitter.
be me though. I'm gonna play Janeway.
Yeah, I'll put you as the. You know what? I was trying to think of the third option because who did we say real quick? It was Viola Davis, Kate Winslet, Tilda Swinton, or who? There was somebody else in there, and now I'm thinking, was it just Will?
It obviously, clearly, yeah.
Anyway, we could land the ship. Final thoughts on this episode.
Land the ship.
Final thoughts on this episode as we land the ship.
Again, I'm marveling that none of us talked about Book being invited to to the oil bath with the green
rub.
guard.
It's just
You
an
guys
everyday
are
occurrence for all
amazing
of
me
us.
tonight.
Yeah. We
I
all
mean-
have our oil bath invitations.
She was in drag like last week. Now she's oil bathing with random Breen.
She was serving last week, though.
hmm
He was also very receptive to the oil baths. He was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I mean, and Michael
gonna-
was like, "Work, bitch." Okay.
Yeah, that's a great thing.
It hasn't been said all episode. So Krista, what was she serving?
Cunt.
Wow.
Neutered cock. I don't know where you're going with
Everybody's
this.
got their lines.
Either or, it's fine.
I think we need another one of these. This mess needs to come in for a landing.
We have so many sound clips to pull from this episode. Wow.
Trevor, give us the tally before I wrap this shit up.
I'd be happy to. So there were 6 problematic gay alerts, 2 Bev alerts, 2 canon alerts, 2 problematic ally alerts, 2 explosive saucer separations, and 1 Will lands the ship. I'm keeping track of those now. You're welcome.
Yes.
Bonus points. I gave 100 bonus points to Benji, Krista, and Will for not saying the word penultimate. 256 bonus points to everyone for pairing off perfectly during the intention setter. I wasn't expecting it, but it happened. 1,500 bonus points to Joanne for pushing the button on me with some attitude. And 90,210 bonus points to Will for clocking workplace gays.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Let's land the ship.
Let's land the ship.
Y'all, delightful as always. I am so sad that Discovery will be ending next week, but I can't wait to talk about it with you all next Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Pacific, right here at Salon Trek here on YouTube. Please make sure you're subscribed, like and share the videos, comment. We hit 75 subscribers yesterday, which was our goal for May. Thank you very much. Now let's get to 100. Please do share this with your friends, like us and follow us on all of the places. We're at Salon Trek here on YouTube, on Twitter, and on Blue Sky. And until next week, we hope you all live long and prosper. Bye, y'all. Have a great evening. Thank you so much.